We need them. Some days a whole lot more than others, but, we need them every day. Talking about strategies. Strategies for living. So are you ready? You ready for your daily dose? Your daily dose of Radio Rehab.
I think I'm ready.
You think you're ready?
I think so, yeah.
I think you are too.
Very ready.
Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome into 1017 FM and 710 Keel. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillan, and she is PLPC psychotherapist Lauren Leon McMillan.
That's me.
You like it simple, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am quite the simple person. Enjoy the simple pleasures.
We're going to kind of explore that a bit this evening here on Strategies. In other words, the power of simplicity. And, some people may cringe at this, but underconsumption. Our world, if you think about it, is obsessed, particularly our culture. We're obsessed with accumulation.
Well, it's called consumerism.
Yeah. And
If you gotta put a name to it.
We're not here to bash that.
No.
I mean, we're not here to bash that. But what we are here to do
It's find balance.
is, and to say, there are some other ways, and actually simplifying can lead to focusing on what truly matters, and it can lead to things like reduced stress, enhanced focus, and overall well-being. So what we're going to try to do this evening, Lauren, is we're going to look at some strategies and discover why less can often be more, and how if we embrace simplicity, it can positively transform our lives. I mean, when we think about progress, we usually think about adding stuff to what's already there, and we build more, and we build bigger, and we build more complex. We rarely think that progress can also be achieved by taking away, by building less or smaller or simpler. But we're going to take a look at that this evening. And I actually have to credit, I found an article by Thomas Kuchero, I think that's how you pronounce his name, in something called The Geeky Leader, from the geekyleader.com.
Okay.
And this is part of Stoicism. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of books here lately on Stoicism. So it's kind of making a comeback, probably because of things like what we're going to talk about this evening.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds important. I think it's an important time for it.
I could not agree more. Folks, thank you for being with us here on Strategies for Living. We appreciate you, and we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Learning RX, and Pintail Roofing, and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. Back in a moment, talking about less being more today, right here on Strategies for Living. Come back with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jay Merle for Pintail Roofing. Let's talk about quality. When you hire Pintail to build your roof, here's what you can expect. Quality and quality control are the most important concerns for us at Pintail, and you need to know that Pintail stands tall with swift and professional performance on any warranty call. This is our most important policy. And remember, we're your neighbors. We'll be here for you for the long haul. Our family's lived here for over 100 years, and we aren't going anywhere. On the commercial side of Pintail's business, our fluid-applied roofing solutions can save thousands of dollars over conventional commercial roofing options. Call Pintail at 226-ROOF for a free inspection of your home or commercial building. That's 226-7663. Pintail Roofing. What's the condition of your roof?
Facing the same old problems day to day makes you wanna holler, get away. Looking for the road that'll get me there. Looking for hope and peace to spare. Looking for strategies for living radio.
Welcome into Strategies for Living here on 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. What was that again?
We found them. We're looking for strategies. For
we
living.
did find them.
We
Yeah,
found him. He's here.
They weren't
We're
even
here.
covered up. We've been here, so spread the word. We're here. Thank you for joining us here, folks, on Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan and David McMillan. Glad you are here with us, and we're talking less is more today. I mean, this is kind of counterintuitive, if you will, because
counterintuitive to the status quo, perhaps, and to our culture and the environment in which we've all been accustomed to. I don't know that it's counterintuitive in the literal sense that it's against our intuition.
Okay, you're making a good point.
I mean, because if we look at nature, they are intuitive beings, right? And what do we see our dog do? A whole lot of simple things, right?
Yeah.
And enjoying a good life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, he's got a great life. I mean, come on. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I wish I had his life.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But I mean, here's the deal. We're driven in our culture. We're generally driven to know more, get more, do more, have more stuff. And we rarely question whether having more and more information or more and more stuff or doing more, we don't stop and question, is that actually good? Because often, more information or more stuff or doing more, I mean, how many times have any of us done that and found that we enjoy less?
Right. I mean, it's the age-old, quantity versus quality situation, right? If you're spreading out your being, right, over multiple things stacked one against the other,
right.
I mean, you're not going to have as much energy as if you really invested in a few things that were really important to you. Right?
I mean, what does every business want to do, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in business, if you're in the business arena, you want to keep adding services, adding products, right?
Right. Growing
our
way.
Product line. We rarely remove the ones that aren't performing particularly well. Mm-hmm. We spread out our focus and budgets thin. Mm-hmm. We add more people to be able to handle all the work that hopefully is going to come. Why do we do that? Why do we pursue more? Why do we accumulate more? Why do we overconsume so?
Sometimes I think it might just be a distraction or a quick instant dopamine sort of hit.
Maybe so.
Piece.
Mark Twain supposedly said, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead. There's no proof that he actually said that, but it's a pretty nice sentiment that encapsulates the problem with more. If you think about it, more doesn't equal better.
No,
making things simpler can be hard, but the results are often superior to the more complex system out there, the more complex products or process that we've started with. Now, the problem is that sometimes we get a little lazy, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have the time to make things simpler.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
That's kind of counterintuitive in itself, actually.
We get satisfied with quote unquote good enough. We've done our job, like writing a letter, mm-hmm. And now it's time to move on to the next thing. Could we make that letter better by actually editing, by cutting some parts out? Well, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But is it worth the effort? Well, that depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's very akin. It reminds me kind of the theory behind poetry, right?
Yeah.
In writing poetry, you want to be as succinct as possible, but yet convey the most meaning, right?
Yeah.
And so, in a way, this is about how can you make your life more poetic?
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. Sometimes settling for good enough is sufficient, but sometimes it would pay off to take that extra step, to simplify, to cut, to actually remove elements to make, the final results better. Sometimes it's not our laziness. It's simply the need for others to see all that hard work that we put into our masterpiece, right? And I think this is especially so when we write. You write 1,000 words, and well, let's add to it. How about 100,000 words? And you don't want to cut it in half. I remember visiting with Gary Renaud.
Yes.
Who wrote The Disappearance of the Universe. Right. Which he worked hard to get somebody to publish it. Mm-hmm. And when he finally did get somebody to publish it, he sent the manuscript, and the publisher said, "This is way too long. You're gonna have to cut this out." And it made him. The story that he related to me is it made him back up for a little while. Do I really want to, go this route? As it turned out, his book became a mega bestseller. Yes. He and his publisher became good friends and partners, and so it all worked out. But sometimes we have to be. My point is that sometimes we have to be prompted to do. To do less as is more, right?
Yes, right.
Even though, what the publisher told Gary, if somebody picks up a book, if I publish this, it's going to be a 600-page book. People are going to pick this up, and nobody's going to buy it, right? Because people don't buy 600-page books. Yeah. So, right thing to do, and I think. I'm biased because I like Gary's book, but it still became a masterpiece. If a masterpiece is a mega bestseller, then it certainly did that.
Yeah. Now, that kind of makes me think: have we taken that too far?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, because a lot of the new social media. A lot of the new social media is short form videos, right? And so. They're just these really short clips, but what we do is we scroll then, right? And we watch one after the other. So we're almost
we scroll like mad. If you're like me, I mean, I get going and I'm scrolling like a madman, like like madmen and women.
It becomes very addictive, right? Yeah. And so it's almost like we're putting ourselves in a bind there. We're saying, "Oh, we're doing less," but we're actually being suckered into doing more. Yeah. And therefore, still making our lives a lot more complex, even though the little sound bites we're taking in are a lot more appear a lot more simpler.
Where this whole more is better really gets reinforced, I think. Yeah. Where? In our schools. Mm-hmm. You got to provide as many details as possible about in subject after subject. Well, how did you arrive at that, right? Right. How did you arrive at the results of, let's say, a math problem, right? Show your work, right? Right. It wasn't enough to calculate and write the answer and, okay, the answer's right. You'd get points off if you didn't show your work, right? Right. Yeah. So it was important to document every step of the calculation, get it all written out. The teacher needed to know how you arrived at the answer and that you didn't copy it from somebody else, Right. You had to provide much more than what truly mattered. What really mattered was the correct answer, but you had to show more. That's my argument.
That one's arguable. Okay. Right? Well, because I might argue, well, really, it's less about the right answer. I would say what matters more is the process. to get there.
Well, yeah, but how many of us really think that way?
Mm-hmm, right.
You know,
well, that's my challenge to
That's
us
the whole
all.
point of this evening's conversation. How many of us really think that way?
Yeah.
And there's some reasons for that, Lauren. And I think, one of the natural tendencies is accumulation. Because it kind of comes to mind first. Mm-hmm. We accumulate rather than simplify because why? Because accumulation comes to our minds first. Why does it come to our minds first? We don't even consider removing items.
Well, because I think it's easier.
We're gatherers. We're
right.
gatherers.
But not only that, David, is our society, our people, even as a species, we do a really bad job about teaching or learning how to grieve. And even in making things simpler, even though it will make our lives easier, whether we know it or not, it comes with a little bit of grief because we've got to let things go.
I think you're exactly right. I think you're underlying you're in the underlying foundation of what we're really talking about this evening.
We're talking about being afraid of grieving and not knowing how to grieve.
Yeah. And we don't even know that this is that we grieve all of our lives. And we'll probably need to do some shows on that, But when do we start considering removing stuff? Only when we reach a point of desperation, when we can't find
overstimulation and overwhelm, right?
When we can't find other ways to improve the situation by adding things, then what do? Then we begin to remove things. I think some of this also is evolutionary. We got to go to break, so we'll start there. When we come back, but remind me, evolutionary.
Absolutely, we're evolving, an evolving species.
Our evolutionary instincts, I think, play a part into all of this. We're talking about simplifying this evening here on Strategies for Living, the power of underconsumption. We're talking about ways to simplify and how that could lead even to a more fuller life. On Strategies this evening. We'll be back. We've got more. Stay with us. Dealing with stress, pain, feel like you're running out of options? When your life is balanced, wellness is a given. True wellness is holistic. It's about the mind, the body, and the spirit, all in balance. Now, there's a place right here in Shreveport that's all about helping us achieve peak mental, emotional, and physical health. The Balanced Life, 117 Kings Highway, right next door to Strawn's. Come see and feel the difference getting your life in balance can be. Many of your friends and neighbors have already learned the difference less stress and pain mean in their lives. You can book a discovery session right now online, thebalancedlife.us. All you've got to lose is stress, pain, or maybe both. Come see and feel for yourself the real difference balanced wellness makes. The Balanced Life Wellness Center, 117 Kings Highway in Shreveport, next door to Strawn's, thebalancedlife.us. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan, talking about less is more.
Living the simple life.
Yeah, exploring the power of simplicity and underconsumption, even though, we live in a culture that's obsessed with accumulation. And so, we've talked about our natural tendencies. Accumulation comes to our mind first,
right?
And we started with evolutionary instincts,
right?
Here's the deal: our ancestors, ancestors had this need to collect food to survive,
right?
And that may well influence our tendency to be hoarders.
Well, and we're really not you're talking about the hunter-gatherers way back when, but we're really not that too far removed either from a secondary, more modern version of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the Great Depression.
Right? You're absolutely right.
I mean, we're not too far removed from that. I mean, that's in our, within 3 generations, right?
I remember one day going to my parents' house, and this is many years ago because they passed away, unfortunately, in 2007.
Right.
And we had a couple of years where, they were in the house, but this, I don't know, this must have been maybe 2001, 2002, something like that. I went to the house one day, and I'm just messing around in the kitchen. I opened the cupboard over the stove where the coffee and sugar were kept. And I counted my father, who loved, after he retired, to collect coupons and then go out here and go out there, because he was a grocer. He was, he had that grocery mentality. But I counted, there were 35 pounds of coffee in the cabinet, and the coffee and the sugar were together, and so there were probably also. Sugar back then came in 5 pounds packages, and so he probably had over 50 pounds of sugar, and 35 pounds of coffee out there.
Yep.
So I just started laughing.
What else can you do?
What else? Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're not too far removed from that.
No, because that was my point. Because my parents were my father was born in 1915.
Yeah. And so for the
and my mother in 1918. So they were young adults. They were coming into their own.
Yeah, they were impacted greatly. Yeah.
Sure they were. Sure.
And so the generations following that, we talk about tradition and how we don't evaluate or look at our beliefs, right?
Right.
And one of those is the belief in lack, right?
Yeah.
And so that is not too far removed from us, and we've got to really take a good look at that if we truly want to live a more abundant life.
Yep.
We have to really examine our beliefs about lack, and that can be an underlying belief in why I need to consume more or gather more is because I'm going to lose it in some form, or in some way I'm lacking in other areas, and so I need to fill that with material or food or whatever else.
And I think before we renounce all of our worldly possessions here, it's pretty important to point out that our need to collect things has played a significant role in the rise of civilization. I mean, hunter-gatherers lived in small groups where it was easy to know one another and work together. And as they settled down to build larger and more durable shelters, along with the advent of agriculture, right? These groups grew bigger, and it made it more difficult to know everybody, right?
Right.
And as a result, mental shortcuts based on people's possessions and the clothes they wore were created. If you wore a lion skin, everyone knew you were a hunter, right? You were skilled and fearless as a hunter.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of similar today when you wear a police uniform.
Right, or scrubs.
Everybody knows that you're there to serve and protect. If you wear scrubs, people know that you're there to help heal.
Or the security vest. Yeah.
So with the help of those categories, we were able to survive as we grew into larger groups, and that's the emergence of civilization, right?
Yes.
During the Industrial Revolution, we had the rise of capitalism. The pursuit of more became a way of life. And so increased production meant greater prosperity for everybody and a higher likelihood of peace. However, increased production also led to a widening gap between the wealthy and the other, right? The others. And yet, as long as everybody was generally improving, it's pretty much felt okay, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we want to balance this out. We're not bashing to the accumulation of stuff has been important to our growth.
Okay.
We're just calling it into all of our attention. Have we crossed over a barrier is the question, I guess, I'm asking.
And when we talk about accumulation too, it's not just about stuff. Stuff is a big problem.
Yep.
Can be a big problem.
Yep.
But also I'm thinking just in terms of our doing and our busyness as well.
Yeah.
The accumulation of activities.
Yeah.
Kids can be involved in so many, and it can be helpful for parents to, not have them busy while they're at work. But how many activities, and what are you communicating to kids who are in one activity after another after another?
Yeah, we got to be careful about that,
right?
One of the other things that I think has happened here is the visibility of achievement. So adding is more tangible than subtracting. So one of the main culprits is our need to see results. So if you build a building, you add something to the empty space, and you can see what you've achieved, right? And that feels good. If you remove a building, you create an empty space. There's nothing to be seen there. And I think there's a tendency we want to be seen, visibility, So if you're removing a building, there's nothing to see.
Well,
you may have improved the neighborhood, but it's invisible. So in a competition, the person who built the building kind of wins, if you will, quote unquote, over the person who removes it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sort of following.
Okay. Yeah. There's also a competence display. We often equate having more with being more capable. And I think this
keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, and I think this is part of why we might get ourselves and our kids into more and more.
Right. I mean it makes sense. I mean, you want them to be worldly and to have as many experiences as possible. But if one of the experiences we're giving them is not stillness, I'm a little concerned.
I agree, but we got to understand that that's a relatively that has shown up relatively recently.
Yeah.
Because there was a psychologist, Robert W. White, who introduced the idea back in 1959 of showing competence as a basic human need. So he concluded that showing competence is not only a way to survive, but also to avoid feeling helpless and show how well we can deal with the world around us. And well, what's the best way to show competence? To achieve something, to build something, to complete a task. So this internal drive seems to contribute, if you will, to our desire for more. By having more, we're showing competence, and we're showing that we're better than others, right? And we want others to see our competence. And then also being busy. It's a cultural norm. I mean, it's kind of seen as a badge of honor in our modern society.
Well,
busy.
And this again is it's a very new development, right? I mean, it wasn't too long ago that women entered the workforce.
Yeah.
And so now we're all working all the time, and we've got these crazy things called side hustles, right? And we almost compete with each other to see who's the busiest and who's the most tired. And we wonder why we have some mental problems going on. We struggle with stress and anxiety.
I think there's also loss aversion. We hate to lose things that we already possess,
Right.
We don't like to remove
things. That's
things.
the grief portion.
Yeah. Then there's FOMO. We've got to consider FOMO in this conversation, the fear of missing out. We worry that the rest of society is going to leave us behind. Information overload is a real thing. It's a real phenomenon.
Yes.
How often do you hear of or experience yourself the feeling of being overwhelmed by information? Well,
and it's not too hard to do these days.
No.
With all that's available at our fingertips all the time.
Yeah.
All around us.
Yeah. Social networks and advancements in now artificial intelligence have exacerbated information overload.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly exposed to an unmanageable, if you will, amount of information. But here's the deal. What if true advancement lies in simplification. There was a book, Subtract, by Letty Klotz. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. And it illustrates the benefits of less. Less is more. And he uses a donut. It was in 1847. A teenager named Hanson Gregory questioned his mom about why the fried cakes she was making were soggy in the middle, and he took a fork and created a hole in the middle of the yet uncooked donut, and he created,
what we
now know as the donut.
Okay.
It fried more evenly, and it was tastier.
Yeah.
All it took was to
take out
a little bit of dough, right?
Okay.
So, maybe simplicity isn't about deprivation. Maybe it's about making room. Maybe that little bit of dough in the middle is a metaphor. It's making room for what is essential.
Yeah.
By simplifying, maybe we're creating space for experiences and growth and genuine connections. We're exploring, is less more today? Can we simplify in our
we can do it
busy world?
It's definitely possible, and I think more and more of us are yearning for that, and I think that's good.
We're going to come back and talk about why it's important to do that and what the payoff is, including reduced stress and enhanced focus. But there's more. So stay with us. We've got more to talk about here this evening on Strategies for Living. Be right back. You're going to see the difference. When you go to Azalea Cleaners, you'll hear about it too. Azalea Cleaners has been fine dry cleaning since 1958, plus laundry, alterations and repairs, comforters, wedding gown cleaning and restoration. You'll hear about it from your friends because they'll see it too. They'll notice the Azalea difference. Azalea is convenient. 732 Azalea Drive, 9220 Ellerby Road, and 9227 Mansfield Road. Plus, the front door of your home or business with Azalea's delivery on demand. Just text SETUP to 249-8283, and Azalea will pick up your clothes and deliver them back clean and fresh to you. You can't get closer than that. That's the Azalea difference. You'll notice it right away. Others will too. The Azalea difference. Fine dry cleaning since 1958. Text SETUP to 249-8283 and get the Azalea difference. AzaleaCleaners.com. And welcome back. Welcome back into 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. What are the benefits of making things simpler? Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan, here on Strategies for Living, talking about less is more today, and talking about under-consuming today on Strategies for Living. It's kind of a different way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah,
under-consumption.
it is.
But think about this. If you simplify, when we simplify, we're reducing stress. Fewer possessions and commitments means less chaos in our lives, right? Less demand on our time and our wallets and all of that. Also, enhanced focus. If you have fewer distractions, then you can concentrate on.
I think both of those things can be potentially kind of, I don't know if I want to use the word, but I'll say scary for some people.
Yeah.
Right? If you're familiar with chaos and, you don't want to focus on yourself, practicing overconsumption or, doing way more all the time, keeping yourself busy is a good way to do that.
Well, let me give you some more then. I haven't sold you yet. Improved well-being. Simplicity leads to greater peace of mind. and satisfaction in your life. Also, there's some financial benefits.
Sure.
So consuming less saves you money. It reduces debt because we don't have to have all the latest gadgets and fashion clothes and all that stuff. Also, information management. Reducing information overload allows better decision making, better focus,
clearer mind,
peace of mind.
It allows for the important information to come through.
Yeah. And then prioritize quality. Whether we're talking about product design, whether we're talking about writing
or time, less
often results in superior outcomes. I'm thinking about I love to read books. Some of my very favorite books are those short little books, not that I won't read and salivate even at a 300 or 400 page book.
Right.
I do. But when I think about some of my very favorite books, like Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, like Deepak Chopra's The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, those are two of my very favorite books, and they're little books.
Right.
They're small and they're rather simple. So also mental clarity, and I think you were touching on this, simplifying our physical and even digital space can lead to clearer thinking and higher prioritizing and more life satisfaction. Okay, but you want to get to strategies,
yes,
don't you?
Yes, I do. Okay. I'm chomping at the bit. Let's go.
All right,
how can I do this?
Here's one quick one that we talk about a lot, mindfulness. So I'm talking about mindful consumption. Just a simple question here. Yeah. Do I really need this? And when you
and to think about what is this providing for me, how is this serving me? I mean, I've done this a lot in the past year or so.
You really have.
Really cold because I have recognized the importance of what I surround myself with.
Yeah.
Right. And so I ask myself, when a show comes on, is this something that I really want to become a part of me? Because that's the important question, right? Yeah. Because what we surround ourselves truly becomes a part of who you are and then who you share with others in the world. And so if what you're doing or engaging with is not in alignment with your values or not something that you would be proud to be a part of you've got to just take a step back and ask, okay, well, why am I engaging in this?
There you go. So when the next time you crave something, this question needs to pop into your mind. Do I really need this? Yeah. How will this thing help me advance my mission in life? When was the last time I bought something similar to this, and how often did I actually use it? Okay, another strategy, active subtraction.
Okay.
Don't just stop adding. Actively remove unnecessary elements from your life. So the second type of less is when you go, let's say you go into your house and it's cluttered, or your apartment, and you throw away anything that you haven't used in the last several years. You not only stop adding new things, you actively subtract from what's already there, making your home or your apartment less cluttered, removing mess, removing distractions, and having fewer things to worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. Another strategy is reframed reduction. Instead of cutting or deleting, okay, let's reframe that. Let's think of simplifying as cleaning,
right,
or refining. We're reframing it. So, you stop talking about it in terms of cutting and deleting and removing or losing, and you put in more positive words like clean.
Right.
Simple.
Or another
better.
thing I'm thinking about is like if you're cleaning out your closet, right? And so you're going to give it away to Goodwill or to one of the boxes around town, right?
Right.
It's about the practice of, okay, instead of I'm letting go or giving away these clothes, they're going to someone who will use them.
Yeah,
right?
There you go. And you can get a lot of satisfaction from that. All right, another strategy is practice saying no. Decline commitments that don't line up with your priorities. Pushing back and saying no may sound scary, but it's a critically important skill,
and it's one
we can learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a full sentence, no.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Another strategy is the joy of missing out. Learn to enjoy not being in the loop, you know?
Yep. Now, listen, this is easier for us introverts. Let me say that.
Yeah.
It really is.
A lot of people are saying, I hear a lot of people saying, I don't listen to the news on TV or radio anymore. You know.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah. And so I think more and more people are doing this.
Just waiting for you, bud.
Yeah. I love there's a quote from I heard that.
Okay.
I love the quote from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
Here's the quote. Man has always assumed that he's more intelligent than dolphins because he has achieved so much. The wheel, New York, wars, and so on. While all the dolphins have ever done was muck about in the water, having a good time. But conversely, the dolphins had always believed that they were far more intelligent than man for precisely the same reasons. So it shows the point. It illustrates the point.
Yeah.
You know, are we really sure that being constantly busy is the ultimate goal of life? Simplicity is not just deprivation. It's about making room for what's essential.
It's about making room for you, friend.
Yes.
That's what it is.
By simplifying, we create space, just like that donut hole. We create space for experiences, growth, and genuine connection. And I love donut holes from Southern Made. Nothing better, right? In fact, I think we ought to go there right now. Yeah. I just tried
less
to
is more.
Just tried to slip that in. Yeah, we've been talking about less is more this evening here on Strategies for Living. Come back and wrap us with us. We'll be right back. Stay here. Hey, let's talk about the Robinson Film Center. You know, I say it a lot. There's no place like the Robinson.
Absolutely, there is not.
617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. You've got so much. You got the movies. You got Abby Singer's Bistro on the second floor of RFC, open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Saturday.
Newly remodeled.
Absolutely. Great menu. RobinsonFilmCenter.org is the way you check it all out. You can go to RobinsonFilmCenter.org at any time and find out what movies are showing. Here's the deal. You want to join the crowd, join the fun, become a member. When you become a member, you become a star. You get discounts on movies, you get concession upgrades, you get bistro deals. RFC, 617 Texas Street in downtown Shreveport. I'll say it again. There's no place like the Robinson.
There is not, and I'm glad we have one right here.
Absolutely. The RobinsonFilmCenter.org.
Reading begins not in the classroom, but in your child's brain. I'm Donisa Walker with LearningRx Shreveport. If your child struggles to read, maybe he or she has trouble focusing or comprehending, LearningRx Shreveport offers a science solution to reading problems, working one-on-one with your child, targeting his or her reading skills. Today, call LearningRx Shreveport. Make an appointment to have your child assessed. I know you want to help your child, so does LearningRx Shreveport.
And welcome back. Welcome back into 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan, here on Strategies. And so, less is more. We've been talking about that today here on Strategies. The power of underconsumption. And we've talked about some ways to simplify and how that can lead to a fuller life, if you will. What's your takeaway from today?
Well, you're speaking to the choir because I really do enjoy, for the most part, I think, a pretty simple experience. But one of the things that gears me in that direction is to get the fullest, to extract the fullness from each moment.
Yeah.
Right. So even when we're eating, right, less is still more when you're eating, because if you're able to mindfully eat each bite and really be present and attentive to all of the flavors and the textures and the experience, it's way more than rushing through a meal. Right?
I could even make the argument that even like cleaning up afterwards, washing the dishes, if you can slow down and buy into the less is more and experience all the, the water and the soap and all of the experiences.
Expressing gratitude for its holding of your food.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So there is something to be said for simplicity, and it certainly can, I think, lead to a fuller life. More and more people are talking about this.
I think as is, important and necessary.
So as more and more people talk about it, I think we're going to see it practiced more and more. Lauren, thank you. Folks, thank you. We appreciate you being a part of Strategies for Living, and we appreciate our sponsors making it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Learning RX, and Pintail Roofing, and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillan, I'm David McMillan. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.